Do you know how long you're going to live? Give it a little thought. Good morning, guys and girls. Let's look at the catch of the day for February 23rd. We're going to be looking in the book of James, James 4:14. Hey, I want to take just a second here and tell you just a little bit of a funny that happened to me when I was trying to get a new driver's license here in the state of Oklahoma that said Jimmy Houston. My driver's license says James L. Houston. I'm not going to tell you my middle name's Leroy because I've never liked that middle name of Leroy. So it's James L. I'm not going to tell you what my middle name is. But anyway, I just never liked that middle name. I don't know what my mom and dad was thinking about when they named me that. But they're both gone now, so I can say that. I would never tell them I didn't like that name, you know, when they were alive. But so everything I've got says Jimmy Houston, including all of my frequent flyer deals. Well, after we had the problems with 9/11, the airports began to get stricter and stricter and stricter. And I would get in some of these places like out in Seattle, Washington, where they were like crazy on rules, in California. And I'd try to get on an airplane, and my ticket would say Jimmy Houston. And my driver's license would say James L. And they say, you can't board this airplane. And I'd be trying to get on an airplane. And I'd have to go back to the counter and get them to reprint my ticket that said James L. And this got worse and worse and worse. And so I thought, well, I'll just change my driver's license to Jimmy Houston. That ought to be a really easy deal. I mean, I've been Jimmy Houston forever, so I ought to change that. And I know people in high places here in Oklahoma. I mean, I carry governors and congressmen and people fishing. You know, I could surely change my driver's license to Jimmy Houston. So I go down to the driver's license place here in Sulphur, Oklahoma, and just so happened I was having it renewed, and I thought it's perfect time to do it. And so I went in there and I tell the girl, I said, I want to change my name on this so I get my new license. She said, well, you can't do that. I said, what do you mean I can't do that? And she said, well, you can't do that. You have to have that done through Oklahoma City. And I said, well, I'm not in Oklahoma City. And she said, what do you want it changed to, Jimmy? And I said, well, I want it changed to Jimmy. And so she said, well, I don't know how difficult that is to be done. I said, well, it's changed all the time. People change them all the time. You know, Muhammad Ali was Cassius Clay. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar was Lou Alcindor. I mean, they change it all the time. And when girls get married, they change their last name. My wife's last name is Sam, Christine Sam. And now it says, for years it said Christine Houston. I think it should have said Christine Sam Houston because that's kind of cool, but it didn't. It just says Christine Houston. But and she said, well, you have to do that through Oklahoma City. And I said, can you call them? She said, sure, I'll get them on the phone for you. She got them on the phone. And I'm talking to this girl, and I told her what I want to do, and I explained it. And she said, Jimmy, well, you can't do that unless you get married. I said, well, I'm already married. Can't get married again. Can't do that in Oklahoma. And change your name that way, or you can do it for religious reasons. I said, yeah, because I explained to her about Lou Alcindor and Cassius Clay. You know, I said, these guys had their names. I bet their driver's license says Muhammad Ali and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. And so she said, well, you can change your name for religious reasons. And I said, well, I'd like to do that. And she says, well, what religious reasons would you like to change it for? Too? And I said, well, I'd just like to put down that I'm changing my name to Jimmy Houston for religious reasons. I'm a deacon in a Southern Baptist church, okay? And she said, Jimmy, in the Bible, it's the book of James, not the book of Jimmy. I know you're not laughing, but I think that's kind of funny. That's a real true story. All right, let's look in the book of Jimmy. No, excuse me, the book of James. The book of James 4:14. But you do not know what will happen tomorrow. Your life is like a mist. You can see it for a short time, then it goes away. One of my most frightening moments as a teenager on Lake Tenkiller happened one foggy morning as I motored my 14-foot aluminum boat through the fog to run a trot line. A trot line is, for those of you who don't know, is a big long line, and you're allowed to put 100 hooks on it here in Oklahoma, and you catch catfish on it. You bait those 100 hooks, you go back and run it early in the morning, and that's what I was doing. I was going to run that trot line. I knew the lake like I knew my own bedroom. Fog was not any problem for me. I ran wide open to a point where the line was tied. When I was about halfway to that point, a rock bank suddenly appeared within a few feet of my bow. I turned the motor as hard as I could, but I beached the boat 15 to 20 feet up on the bank. I got thrown up in the middle of the boat, but I was unhurt. I was scared silly. Fortunately, I only had a 20 horsepower Mercury. I had no idea where I was. I looked around, looked at the bank. I didn't have a clue. Then the fog went away, and I was no longer lost. Knew right exactly where I was. God says that our life will also go quickly, and we must be ready for eternity. We must be ready for eternity. Our life, we can see for a short time, and then it goes away. Make sure that you're ready for eternity. Let's look for our tip for today, February 23rd. Our tip is almost every strike on a jig will come on the fall. So if you're fishing a jig, you pitch that jig out there, as it's falling, almost every strike will come on the fall. Occasionally you can pick it up. We can now swim a jig and catch them while it's swimming, but if we're dropping a jig, nearly every bite's going to come on the fall. So what does that mean? Make a jig fall a lot. So in other words, you don't want to move a jig a long way and drop it, a long way and drop it. You want to move it short little moves so it's drops, 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 drop. Since most of the bites are coming on the fall, make your jig fall a lot. Guys and girls, go out there and have you a great day today. I love you.